The arena was larger than Noah had imagined when the guards first dragged him through the palace corridors. From the center of the sand-covered ground, the walls rose upward in enormous circular layers of polished black stone and glowing crystal panels. Tens of thousands of alien spectators filled the terraces above him, their voices blending into a restless hum that reminded him of a distant thunderstorm. Noah stood in the middle of the arena, wearing metal restraints around his wrists, wondering how a perfectly normal week had somehow transformed into what looked like the universe's most expensive gladiator show. He cleared his throat and glanced at the guard beside him. "Just checking," Noah said cautiously. "Is there any chance this is a misunderstanding and I'm actually here for a tour?" The guard did not answer. The guard also did not blink. Noah sighed. "Worth asking." High above the arena floor, a long balcony stretched across the central wall of the structure. At its center stood a throne carved from pale violet crystal. The figure seated upon it was unmistakably the ruler of this place, Queen Kessa. Even from this distance, Noah could see that she looked strangely human. Her face carried the same structure and balance of human features, but something about her presence felt ancient and powerful. Her silver hair flowed across her shoulders, and the long, elegant ears extending through it gave her an otherworldly appearance. She watched the arena in silence, not angry, not excited, just distant. Noah shifted his weight nervously. "You know," he muttered to himself, "this feels like the kind of situation where someone usually explains the rules first." A metallic voice echoed across the arena. "Subject Noah Carter, you have been accused of sabotaging the Royal Genetic Archives." Noah immediately raised a finger. "Objection," he said loudly. "I barely understand my own computer files. Sabotaging alien archives seems slightly above my skill level." The crowd above laughed at the translation broadcast that carried his words across the arena. Apparently, sarcasm translated very well across the galaxy. The voice continued without emotion. "Your guilt will be determined through trial." Noah blinked. "Trial usually involves lawyers." The voice paused. Then the massive gates on the far side of the arena began to open. The sound of grinding metal rolled across the stadium floor like an approaching earthquake. Noah turned slowly. "That's not a lawyer." Something enormous moved in the darkness behind the gate. The creature stepped forward into the light, and the entire arena erupted into cheers. The beast was easily 4 times Noah's height. Plates of dark metallic armor covered its body like living machinery, and beneath them powerful muscles shifted with every movement. 6 glowing amber eyes scanned the arena floor. Long claws scraped the stone as it walked forward. Noah stared at it for several seconds. Then he quietly whispered, "Oh." The beast was famous. Even Noah had heard stories about it during his short time on this alien world. The savage of the throne. Hundreds of criminals had been thrown into this arena. None had survived longer than a minute. The creature released a low growl that vibrated through the ground beneath Noah's boots. Noah slowly raised both hands. "Okay," he said calmly. "Before we begin, I'd like to point out that I am not very nutritious." The beast took another step closer. Its 6 eyes focused directly on him. The crowd leaned forward eagerly. High above, Queen Kessa watched with quiet indifference. She had seen this spectacle many times before. The beast moved closer, closer, its enormous head lowered until it was only a few meters away from Noah. The creature inhaled slowly. It was smelling him. Noah froze. "Please don't taste me," he whispered. The beast sniffed again. Something strange happened. Instead of lunging forward, the creature suddenly stopped. Its 6 glowing eyes widened slightly. The massive predator took one slow step backward. The arena fell silent. Noah blinked. "Did I smell that bad?" The creature lowered its head again, studying him carefully. Another step backward, then another. The savage of the throne, an unstoppable monster that had killed hundreds, was retreating. Confused murmurs rippled across the arena stands. The beast circled Noah slowly, its movements cautious now instead of aggressive. Its armored tail twitched as it continued sniffing the air around him. Noah slowly turned in place to keep the creature in view. "You know," he said quietly, "this is a very confusing relationship we're building." The beast suddenly lowered its massive head toward him. Noah held his breath. Instead of attacking, the creature bowed. High above the arena, Queen Kessa abruptly leaned forward in her throne. For the first time in centuries, something had surprised her. The savage had never bowed to anyone. But now it stood before the human, head lowered, breathing slowly as if recognizing something ancient in the air. Noah looked up toward the queen's balcony, then back at the enormous creature. Then he sighed softly. I have absolutely no idea what's happening. The silence that followed the creature's bow spread through the arena like a shockwave. Tens of thousands of spectators leaned forward at once, unsure whether they had truly seen what they thought they had seen. The savage of the throne did not bow. The creature barely even hesitated when killing its victims. Yet now the enormous beast remained still, its armored head lowered before a confused human who still had his hands awkwardly raised in the air. Noah slowly lowered one hand. Okay, he said carefully. I feel like we skipped several important steps in this relationship. The creature lifted its head slightly and sniffed the air again. Its 6 amber eyes studied Noah with an intensity that made the man feel like he was being examined by a very large and very judgmental scientist. High above the arena, Queen Kessa's fingers tightened slightly against the armrest of her throne. This is impossible, one of the royal observers whispered behind her. Kessa did not answer. Her golden eyes remained locked on the arena floor. The beast took another slow step around Noah, circling him with surprising patience. Its claws scraped softly across the stone floor as it moved. Every time it passed in front of him, it leaned closer to breathe in his scent. Noah turned slowly in place to keep track of the creature. Just so we're clear, he muttered under his breath, this is either going very well or very, very badly. The beast paused directly in front of him again. Then it lowered its head even further. The massive armored plates along its neck folded slightly as the creature bent down, almost like a trained war animal greeting its handler. Noah stared. You're being polite. The creature blinked. Noah hesitated for a moment, then cautiously extended one hand toward its snout. High above, several guards immediately reached for their weapons. The queen raised one finger. The guards froze. In the arena below, Noah slowly touched the beast's armored nose. The creature did not react with violence. Instead, it released a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through the air. Noah tilted his head. Is that a purr? The creature huffed loudly. A small wave of warm air blasted Noah's hair backward. Okay, Noah said, squinting slightly. Maybe not a purr. The crowd above had begun murmuring loudly now. Translators repeated Noah's words across the arena speakers, which only made the spectators more confused. Queen Kessa leaned forward slightly. Her long silver hair slipped over one shoulder as she watched the scene unfold. Her expression remained calm, but inside her mind an old memory stirred uneasily. The savage beast had only shown behavior like this once before. Thousands of years ago, before the genocide, before her entire species had been hunted to extinction. The creature in the arena shifted its weight again, continuing to examine Noah carefully. Its 6 eyes focused on the human's face, as if searching for something hidden beneath the surface. Noah cleared his throat. Listen, he told the creature quietly. I appreciate the sudden friendliness, but I would also appreciate not dying today. The beast snorted again. A faint tremor ran through its armored spine. Then it stepped backward. Another step. Then another. The savage of the throne was retreating. The arena exploded into confused shouting. Scientists in the observation decks began scanning Noah with every sensor they had. Holographic displays flickered to life as data streamed across their instruments. Biological readings incoming. His chemical profile is unusual. Wait, what is that genetic marker? Queen Kessa stood slowly from her throne. Her tall figure rose above the royal balcony, immediately silencing many of the voices in the arena. Her eyes remained fixed on Noah. The beast finally stopped several meters away from him. It lowered its body to the ground, folding its powerful legs beneath itself like a massive metallic wolf. It was sitting. Noah looked at the enormous creature, sitting peacefully in front of him. Then he looked up toward the queen's balcony again. Your Majesty, he called out cautiously, I don't want to tell you how to run your arena. He gestured toward the beast. But I think your monster might be broken. A few members of the crowd laughed nervously. The beast tilted its head slightly, still studying Noah. Its glowing eyes softened. One of the royal scientists gasped loudly. "Your Majesty, the scans!" Kessa turned her head slightly. "What about them?" The scientist stared at the data floating above his console. "I'm detecting genetic structures in the human's biochemistry that shouldn't exist." Kessa's gaze sharpened. "Explain." The scientist swallowed. "The markers match archived DNA sequences from the Solban kin." The words hung in the air like a silent explosion. Kessa's heart skipped once. The Solban kin were not simply another species. They were her people, or rather, what remained of them. But the Solban kin had been exterminated thousands of years ago. Every last one, except for her. Her eyes slowly returned to the arena floor. Noah was still standing there, looking awkwardly between the giant beast and the thousands of spectators. "So," he said nervously, "does this mean I passed the test?" The savage beast lowered its head once more toward him. Not in submission, in recognition. And for the first time in centuries, Queen Kessa felt the impossible begin to whisper inside her mind. Noah was still trying to understand how his life had reached a point where a six-eyed armored monster was calmly sitting in front of him like a patient dog waiting for instructions. The arena remained strangely quiet. The cheering had stopped. The shouting had faded into uneasy murmurs. Thousands of spectators stared down at the human and the creature that had never shown mercy to anyone before. Noah slowly scratched the side of his head. "So," he said quietly to the beast, "do you also sit when someone throws a stick, or is that asking too much?" The creature blinked two of its glowing eyes and released a low rumbling sound that rolled across the arena floor. Noah nodded slowly. "Right, probably too much." High above, Queen Kessa turned slightly toward the cluster of royal scientists surrounding the observation consoles. "Bring him to the palace," she said. The command was simple, but it carried the quiet authority of someone who had ruled an empire for centuries. Within seconds, the guards around the arena moved. Large magnetic restraints extended from the walls and activated around the beast. Not as punishment, but as precaution. The creature did not resist. It simply watched Noah as if memorizing his scent. Two armored guards cautiously approached the human. Noah raised his hands again. "Before anyone panics," he said quickly, "I'd like to remind everyone that I did not train the giant monster. I'm just as surprised as you are." One guard spoke through a mechanical translator mounted on his helmet. "You will come with us." Noah looked at the creature one last time. The beast remained seated, its glowing eyes calmly following him. "You're not going to suddenly change your mind and eat someone after I leave, right?" Noah asked. The beast blinked again. Noah nodded thoughtfully. "I'll take that as a maybe." The guards escorted him through a long metallic gate at the edge of the arena. As the door closed behind him, the roar of the crowd faded into distant echoes. He expected prison corridors. Instead, he found himself walking through something that looked more like a futuristic palace. The hallway walls were smooth and pale, glowing faintly with soft blue energy lines. Floating lights drifted slowly through the air like silent stars. Strange machines hovered along the ceiling, scanning the guards as they passed. Noah glanced around. "Okay," he admitted, "this place is significantly nicer than the holding cell." Neither guard responded. They walked for several minutes in silence before reaching a massive door formed from interlocking crystal plates. The door opened automatically with a quiet mechanical whisper. Inside waited a vast chamber filled with floating holographic displays. Dozens of alien scientists turned to stare at him the moment he entered. Noah froze. "Oh, good," he muttered. "A room full of people who look like they're about to dissect me." One of the scientists stepped forward. He had long, pale ears similar to the Queen's, though his posture carried none of her authority. "We will begin genetic analysis immediately," Noah pointed at himself. "You say that like I volunteered." Another scientist activated a hovering scanner that drifted toward Noah's chest. A soft beam of blue light swept across his body. Data symbols began appearing in the air above them. The scientists leaned closer to the readings. One of them frowned. "That sequence again." Another adjusted his scanner. "Impossible." Noah folded his arms. If it helps, he said, I've always suspected I was slightly abnormal. Before anyone could answer, the chamber doors opened again. Every scientist in the room immediately stepped aside. Queen Kessa entered. Up close, Noah noticed details he hadn't seen from the arena floor. Her silver hair fell almost to her waist, and the long, elegant ears rising through it gave her an ancient and graceful appearance. Her golden eyes examined him with quiet intensity. Noah cleared his throat. Hello. The Queen stopped several steps away from him. You are Noah Carter? Yes. You were accused of sabotaging our genetic archives. That part is still very confusing to me, Noah admitted. Kessa studied his face for several silent seconds. Then she asked calmly, Have you ever heard of the Solban kin? Noah shook his head. Should I have? The Queen gestured toward the floating holographic screens. They were my people. Noah nodded slowly. Okay. They were exterminated thousands of years ago. Noah blinked. That part sounds significantly less okay. One of the scientists nervously spoke up. Your Majesty, the scans confirm it again. Kessa did not look away from Noah. Confirm what? The scientist hesitated. The human carries genetic markers belonging to the Solban kin. The room fell silent. Noah pointed at himself again. I carry what? Another scientist expanded the holographic display. Strange strands of glowing symbols formed complex genetic maps in the air. These markers should not exist in a human genome. Noah stared at the floating DNA structure. So just to summarize, he said slowly, I was arrested for something I didn't do, thrown into an arena with a murder monster, and now you're telling me I might be related to an ancient alien civilization? No one answered. Noah sighed. Honestly, he added, this is still not the weirdest thing that's happened to me this month. For the first time since entering the chamber, Queen Kessa's expression shifted slightly. It was not quite a smile, but it was very close. The chamber remained quiet after the scientists revealed the genetic scans. The floating holograms slowly rotated in the air, strands of glowing symbols twisting like tiny galaxies above the consoles. Noah stared at them with the same expression someone might have while looking at extremely complicated instructions for assembling furniture. He finally pointed at the glowing DNA structure. So, those squiggly lines mean I'm part of your ancient civilization? One of the scientists adjusted a hovering scanner. Not exactly. Noah nodded slowly. That was my backup hope. Queen Kessa stepped closer to the holographic display. Her golden eyes moved across the genetic sequence with calm focus. But inside her thoughts something ancient and unsettling stirred. These patterns were unmistakable. She had studied the biology of her people for centuries, trying to preserve every piece of knowledge that remained after the genocide. The markers in Noah's blood were not simply similar. They were nearly identical. One of the scientists enlarged a section of the projection. Your Majesty, observe this segment. A glowing cluster of symbols expanded in the air. The scientists began whispering to one another as more data scrolled across the display. Noah leaned slightly to the side to see around one of the machines. I feel like everyone in this room understands something I don't. Another scanner floated toward him and released a faint blue beam that moved slowly from his head down to his feet. Noah watched it pass over him. Please tell me that machine is not about to explode. It is only analyzing your biochemical profile, the scientist replied. That sentence was not comforting, Noah said. Queen Kessa continued studying the data. Her long silver hair shifted slightly as she tilted her head toward the display. These markers should have vanished thousands of years ago, she said quietly. The scientist nodded. Every historical record confirms the same thing, one of them said. The Solban kin were completely exterminated during the purge. Noah raised a hand. I feel like I should apologize for asking this question, he said carefully. But what exactly is a Solban kin? The scientist glanced nervously toward the Queen. Kessa turned toward him. They were my people, she said. Noah nodded slowly. Right. You mentioned that earlier. I was hoping the name might sound slightly less tragic the second time. Kessa ignored the remark. Our species possessed a unique biological trait, she continued. We shared a deep neural connection with certain predator species across the galaxy. Creatures that others could not control recognized our genetic signals and responded to them. Noah's eyes widened slightly. Like the giant monster in the arena. Yes, he rubbed his forehead. So you're telling me that walking tank looked at me and thought I was one of you? The scientists exchanged uncertain glances. That is the most likely explanation, one of them said. Noah slowly turned to stare at the floating DNA display again. I really should have paid more attention in biology class. Another scientist approached with a different scanning device, shaped like a small metallic sphere. The machine hovered around Noah's shoulders, projecting narrow beams of light into his bloodstream. Numbers and alien symbols streamed across another holographic screen. The scientist frowned. This is unusual. Noah crossed his arms. That phrase is becoming a theme today. The scientist zoomed in on another section of the genetic map. These markers are dormant, he said. Dormant? Noah asked. They exist within your DNA, but they are inactive. Something in your ancestry preserved them without expressing them fully. Noah tilted his head. Like a genetic time capsule? The scientist blinked. Yes, that is actually a reasonable comparison. Noah looked at the Queen again. Your Majesty, I hate to interrupt this fascinating lecture about my mysterious biology, but there's still one small problem. Kessa raised an eyebrow. What problem? I'm still being accused of sabotaging your archives. The room fell silent again. Noah gestured toward the holographic screens. I don't even understand half of the technology in this room. If I had tried to sabotage your systems, I probably would have deleted my own shoes by accident. A few of the younger scientists quietly suppressed laughter. Queen Kessa studied him carefully. You insist that you are innocent. Yes. You have no memory of accessing the archives. No. Kessa slowly walked toward the main console where the genetic data was being processed. Then someone else accessed them, she said. One of the scientists nodded nervously. That is possible, Your Majesty. The sabotage occurred shortly before the human was discovered inside the archive wing. Noah blinked. Wait, I was discovered where? In the archive wing. That's impossible, Noah said immediately. I've never even seen your archive wing. Another scientist adjusted the projection again. The security records show you entering the sector. Noah stared at them. That's impressive. Impressive? Yes, Noah said, because I have absolutely no idea how I would even find that place. Queen Kessa's gaze slowly sharpened. The puzzle was growing larger. A human with the genetics of her extinct species, a beast that refused to attack him, and a crime that made no sense. She looked at Noah again. Until the truth is discovered, you will remain under my protection. Noah blinked in surprise. Your protection? Yes. He glanced around the enormous chamber filled with alien technology and armed guards. Does that protection include not throwing me into arenas anymore? Kessa paused. Then she said calmly, That depends. Noah sighed. I knew there was going to be a condition. Noah discovered very quickly that remaining under the Queen's protection did not mean relaxing in a comfortable room with tea and pleasant conversation. It meant being escorted by 4 heavily armed guards through corridors filled with more technology than he had seen in his entire life. Floating drones followed them quietly along the ceiling. Thin beams of scanning light passed over him every few steps. At one point, a wall panel slid open and a small mechanical sphere emerged to analyze his heartbeat. Noah stopped walking. Am I being guarded, he asked, or audited? None of the guards answered. They finally reached a circular chamber lined with tall, translucent panels that glowed softly with pale blue light. In the center of the room stood a large table formed from transparent crystal, its surface filled with slowly shifting holographic maps of star systems. Queen Kessa stood at the table with several advisors. Her silver hair fell down her back like a quiet river of light. The long, elegant ears that marked her species gave her an almost mythical presence, as if she had stepped out of a forgotten legend rather than a political empire. Noah stepped into the room. Well, he said, looking around, this is significantly nicer than the arena. One of the advisors frowned. The Queen did not. Sit, Kessa said calmly. Noah glanced at the glowing chairs around the table. Those don't explode, right? They are chairs. Good, Noah said, sitting down carefully. Just checking. The holographic star map shifted, zooming inward toward a cluster of systems near the outer edge of the galaxy. Kessa spoke without looking at him. Our scientists have continued examining your genetic profile. Noah leaned back slightly. I'm starting to feel like a very unusual science project. One of the advisors adjusted a control on the table. A glowing DNA structure appeared above the map, rotating slowly in the air. These markers remain consistent, the advisor said. They match archived soul-bond kin genetic signatures with 97% certainty. Noah rubbed his chin. 97%? Yes. So there's still a 3% chance this is just a weird coincidence. The advisor blinked. That is not how genetics works. Noah nodded thoughtfully. I was hoping it was. Queen Kessa finally turned toward him. Do you know anything about your ancestors? Noah shrugged. My grandfather owned a fishing boat. My grandmother made extremely aggressive soup. Kessa tilted her head slightly. Aggressive soup? Very spicy. One of the younger advisors quietly coughed to hide a laugh. Kessa ignored them. Our archives contain historical records from the final days of the Purge, she said. A small group of soul-bond kin scientists attempted to escape. Noah listened more carefully now. They used experimental star portals, she continued, unstable technology that allowed travel across enormous distances. The holographic map shifted again, showing an ancient navigation route stretching across multiple star systems. The final destination marker blinked softly. Earth. Noah stared at the map. Now that seems like a very large coincidence. Not coincidence, Kessa said. History. The advisors exchanged serious looks. If those survivors reached Earth, one of them explained, they may have integrated with early human populations. Over thousands of years, their genetics would dilute, becoming nearly invisible. Noah pointed at the floating DNA display. Until someone like me shows up. Yes, he leaned back again. So let me summarize this correctly. Everyone looked at him. Thousands of years ago, your people escaped a genocide, landed on Earth, mixed with early humans, and now a random guy like me accidentally triggers ancient alien genetics. The advisors nodded slowly. Noah sighed. That is still not the weirdest story I've heard this year. Kessa studied him carefully. Most individuals would find this revelation unsettling. Noah shrugged. I was nearly eaten by a six-eyed armored dinosaur this morning. He gestured casually toward the holographic map. Compared to that, discovering ancient alien ancestors feels like a normal Tuesday. One advisor leaned toward the Queen. There is another concern, Your Majesty. Kessa turned slightly. What concern? If the human truly carries dormant soul-bond kin markers, it explains the arena incident. The beast recognized him. Yes. The advisor hesitated. But it also means something else. Kessa's eyes narrowed slightly. Speak. The same genetic signals that calmed the beasts were once used to command them. The room became very quiet. Noah blinked. Command them? The advisor nodded. The soul-bond kin were not merely recognized by the creatures. They could control them. Noah slowly leaned forward. You're telling me that giant monster might actually listen to me? Yes. Noah stared at the ceiling for several seconds. Then he said quietly, I feel like someone should have told me that before throwing me into the arena. One of the advisors rubbed his forehead. Kessa crossed her arms. If this is true, it changes everything. Noah looked at her. How exactly? Kessa's golden eyes held his. Because someone sabotaged the royal archives to hide this information? The advisor stiffened. Noah frowned slightly. And that someone framed me? Yes. He exhaled slowly. So there's a real criminal somewhere inside your empire. Kessa nodded once. And they know exactly what you are. Noah folded his arms. Well, that's uncomfortable. The holographic star map shifted again, showing the vast network of systems under the Queen's rule. Somewhere among those stars, someone had tried to erase the truth, and they had almost succeeded. Noah glanced at the Queen. So, What happens now? Kessa answered without hesitation. Now we find out who tried to kill you. Noah paused. You know, when you say it like that, the day somehow becomes worse. The next morning, Noah woke up in a room that looked less like a prison and more like the guest chamber of someone who owned several planets. The ceiling above him shimmered softly with artificial daylight. Transparent walls displayed distant views of the alien capital city far below. Towers of silver metal rising through pale blue clouds, small ships gliding silently between them like mechanical birds. Noah sat up slowly. He stared at the view for several seconds. Well, he muttered, this is significantly better than a dungeon. A small, hovering sphere floated toward him from the corner of the room. It projected a calm, mechanical voice. Good morning. Your vital signs are stable. Noah blinked. Thank you, floating medical marble. The sphere scanned his forehead with a thin beam of light before quietly drifting away. Noah swung his legs off the bed. Yesterday, I was almost eaten by a monster, he said to himself. Today, I wake up in a royal suite. He paused. I'm not sure if my life is improving or becoming extremely confusing. A door panel slid open and two guards stepped inside. One of them gestured politely. The Queen has requested your presence. Noah sighed. That sentence always worries me. They escorted him through another series of long corridors. This part of the palace was even larger than the areas he had seen before. The walls were lined with ancient carvings and holographic displays that showed fragments of historical records. At one point, Noah slowed his steps. A glowing mural on the wall showed tall figures with long ears standing beside enormous alien beasts that resembled the creature from the arena. The figures were guiding them, commanding them, fighting beside them. Noah pointed at the mural. Let me guess. The guard glanced at it. Yes, those are your soul-bond kin ancestors controlling terrifying space monsters. Yes, Noah nodded. Of course they are. They continued walking until they reached a large observation chamber overlooking the palace gardens. Queen Kessa stood near the window, her silver hair illuminated by the pale sunlight filtering through the transparent ceiling. Several holographic consoles floated around her, displaying streams of data. She did not turn when Noah entered. You slept well, Noah folded his arms. I slept in a room bigger than my entire apartment. He looked around the chamber. I'm beginning to understand the benefits of royal hospitality. Kessa finally faced him. Her golden eyes studied him with calm curiosity. Our scientists completed another analysis during the night. Noah sighed. Let me guess, my DNA is still weird. Yes, that's becoming predictable. One of the floating displays shifted, projecting a new genetic model in the air between them. Kessa gestured toward it. Your markers are not simply dormant. Noah leaned forward slightly. They are evolving. He blinked. That word concerns me. The structure is adapting to our environment, Kessa continued. Exposure to our technology, our atmosphere, even the presence of the beast in the arena appears to have activated certain biological responses. Noah rubbed his temples. So my body is basically waking up ancient alien software. That is an acceptable metaphor. Noah stared at the holographic DNA strands twisting slowly in the air. Please tell me I'm not about to grow extra limbs? Kessa almost smiled again. That is unlikely. Good. She deactivated the display with a small gesture. There is something else you need to see. Noah raised an eyebrow. That sentence never leads to relaxing situations. Kessa began walking toward another door at the far side of the chamber. Follow me. The door opened into a long, descending corridor lined with thick, armored walls. The lighting was dimmer here, and faint vibrations hummed through the floor beneath their feet. Noah noticed the change immediately. This part of the palace feels less friendly. It is not part of the palace. They reached a massive reinforced gate. Several guards stood beside it, along with large energy containment systems built into the surrounding walls. Noah slowly looked at the equipment. Please tell me we're not visiting the monster again. Kessa placed her hand on a control panel. That is exactly what we are doing. The gate opened with a deep mechanical sound. Beyond it lay an enormous containment chamber, made from layered energy fields and reinforced alloy walls. Inside the chamber, The savage beast rested. The creature was lying calmly on the metallic floor, its armored plates reflecting the dim light of the chamber. The moment the gate opened, its 6 glowing eyes turned toward the entrance. Toward Noah. The massive creature immediately rose to its feet. Noah stopped walking. "You know," he said quietly, "I preferred it when we were separated by an entire arena." The beast stepped closer to the containment barrier. It sniffed the air. Then it lowered its head again. Exactly the same gesture it had made in the arena. Recognition. Kessa watched carefully. "Do you feel anything?" she asked. Noah frowned. "Feel what?" "The bond." Noah stared at the creature. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then something strange moved through his thoughts. Not a voice, not words, just a faint awareness, like a distant animal instinct brushing against the edge of his mind. Noah's eyes widened slightly. Okay." Kessa turned toward him. "You feel it?" Noah slowly nodded. "Yeah." The beast rumbled softly behind the barrier. Noah exhaled slowly. "I think the giant monster just said hello." The beast continued watching Noah through the containment field, its 6 amber eyes glowing softly in the dim chamber. The enormous creature lowered its head again, releasing a quiet rumble that vibrated through the metal floor. Noah rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, that definitely feels like a hello." Queen Kessa studied him carefully. "What exactly did you feel?" Noah searched for the right words. "It's not like hearing someone speak," he said slowly. "It's more like standing next to a huge dog that suddenly decides you're its favorite person." Behind the energy barrier, the savage beast shifted its massive weight and let out another low rumble, as if agreeing with the comparison. Noah raised a finger toward the creature. "See? That one felt like agreement." Kessa folded her arms, though there was a faint trace of amusement in her expression. "For thousands of years, that creature has attacked every being placed before it." Noah glanced at the beast again. "Well, maybe it finally met someone who smells interesting." One of the scientists monitoring the chamber suddenly spoke through the communication panel near the door. "Your Majesty, we have an update from the archive investigation." Kessa turned slightly. "Report. The sabotage logs have been restored. We identified the individual who accessed the archives before the attack on the human." Noah perked up immediately. "Please tell me it wasn't me." "It was not." Noah sighed with relief. "I appreciate that clarification." The scientist continued. "The Saboteur is High Archivist Relkar." The chamber grew quiet. Kessa's golden eyes narrowed. Relkar was one of the oldest advisors in the Empire. He had overseen the genetic archives for nearly 2 centuries. "Explain," Kessa said calmly. The scientist hesitated. "He attempted to erase all records related to the soul-bond kin migration to Earth." Noah frowned. "Why would someone do that?" Another holographic screen appeared near the Queen, displaying security footage from the archive halls. Relkar stood before a data console, frantically deleting files. "He believed the return of the soul-bond lineage would weaken the Empire," the scientist explained. "Your Majesty's authority is based partly on being the final survivor of the species." Noah slowly nodded. "So if someone like me shows up..." He feared political chaos. Kessa watched the recording silently. Then she deactivated the display. "Where is Relkar now?" "He attempted to flee the capital." Noah raised his eyebrows. "I'm guessing that didn't go well." The scientist nodded. "Our patrol ships intercepted his transport. He is currently in custody." The matter was settled. Noah leaned against the railing overlooking the containment chamber. "Well," he said, "that solves the mystery of who tried to turn me into monster food." The savage beast gave another soft rumble, clearly displeased with that description. "Sorry," Noah told it. Kessa stepped beside him, looking down at the creature. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she spoke quietly. "For centuries I believed I was the last of my kind." Her voice carried the quiet weight of that loneliness. "The genocide erased everything. Our cities, our knowledge, our people." Noah glanced at her. "But it didn't erase all of it." Kessa looked at him. "The survivors who fled to Earth ensured that." Noah shrugged. "Humanity accidentally saving ancient alien history. That sounds about right. The beast shifted again and lowered itself onto the chamber floor, still watching Noah carefully. Kessa studied the creature. It recognizes you as part of the bond species. Noah nodded slowly. And apparently I recognize it too. He leaned slightly closer to the barrier. Another faint sensation brushed against his thoughts, calm and steady. Noah smiled. You know, he said, I think it likes me. Kessa's expression softened slightly. The bond between our species was never based on dominance. What was it based on? Trust. Noah nodded thoughtfully. That's a nice change from almost getting eaten. Later that day, the entire capital gathered in the great arena again. But this time there was no execution. Noah stood beside Queen Kessa on the royal balcony as the crowd watched in silence. Kessa raised her voice. The human known as Noah Carter has been proven innocent. A wave of sound rolled through the arena. He carries within him the surviving genetic lineage of the soul bond kin. The crowd erupted with shocked whispers. Kessa continued. For thousands of years we believed our people were lost. Today we know the truth. She placed a hand lightly on Noah's shoulder. Our history lives on. Noah leaned slightly toward her. Just to confirm, he whispered quietly, this means I won't be thrown into the arena again, right? Kessa glanced at him. That depends. On what? Whether you behave. Noah nodded seriously. That seems reasonable. In the arena below, the great gate opened once more. The savage beast stepped into the sunlight. Gasps spread through the audience as the enormous creature walked calmly to the center of the arena. Then it sat down. Noah leaned forward slightly. You want me to go down there, don't you? Kessa did not answer. Noah sighed. Well, here goes nothing. He descended into the arena slowly. The crowd held its breath. The beast approached him. For a moment, the entire empire watched in silence. Then the creature lowered its head beside Noah, calm and obedient. Noah placed a hand on its armored snout. Okay, he said quietly. I think we're going to get along just fine. High above the arena, Queen Kessa finally allowed herself to smile. For the first time in centuries, she was no longer alone. And somewhere in the strange history that connected her people to humanity, the future had quietly begun again.